Today we discover a story where a quiet life is shattered by an extraordinary secret. Samuel Washington, a humble hospital worker, loses his beloved wife Lorraine, only to find she's left behind not just memories, but a hidden fortune meant to change the world. Shock turns to courage as Samuel faces elite families, social prejudice, and the pressures surrounding his son's high-stakes wedding. In a breathtaking moment, dignity triumphs over wealth, reshaping relationships and forging an unforgettable legacy. Lorraine's fortune becomes a force for good, sparking a foundation that lifts children and unites communities. Grief gives way to hope as ordinary routines transform into lifelong impact, and one small family's love ripples through an entire city. Subscribe and hit like. Our powerful stories add years to your life. Join our Story Lovers Club and let us know in the comments. Where are you listening from? Imagine a world where being different is dangerous. Now, picture a young, innocent girl, Amaka, betrayed by the one person she should have been able to trust, her stepmother. In her tiny village, whispers turned to shouts. Suspicion became accusation. What did Amaka do wrong? She possessed a gift, an extraordinary, mysterious ability to heal the ill and comfort the suffering. But instead of gratitude, the villagers grew fearful. Unable to comprehend what they couldn't explain, they labeled her witch. With nothing but uncertainty as her companion, Amaka was forced from her home, left to wander streets that offered no shelter and harps that showed no mercy. Yet life has a way of bringing miracles from pain. Fate, it seemed, had another purpose, one that would shake both Amaka and the world she wandered. Because, as luck and destiny would have it, on a day stained by hunger and heartbreak, Amaka's path crossed with a billionaire, Chief Peter, whose soul was wounded and whose only daughter lived her life imprisoned in a wheelchair, hope fading with every failed doctor's promise. No amount of money, travel, or global expertise had managed to cure Princess, Chief Peter's radiant yet sorrowful daughter. Although she was born whole, her legs had never known the ground. Her father had transformed their mansion into a cathedral of hope, filling it with machines from far-off lands, treadmills, therapy pools, exercise bikes. Specialists had flown in from every continent, neurologists drawing maps of her nerves, surgeons inspecting her bones, even spiritualists speaking of curses and invisible chains. Each expert had left behind only disappointment and a father sinking deeper into despair. But destiny is notorious for strange twists. In that very moment, as doctors gave up, Amaka, homeless and alone, held visions in sleep. Visions she didn't understand. Visions that called her toward the unknown. She was just a child and knew only two things. Her gifts frightened people, and somewhere, someone's life was waiting to change because of them. And on a morning the same as any other, just when both families had surrendered hope, a single, courageous sentence from Amaka would ignite a chain of events no one could have predicted. Are you ready to embark on this journey? This is not a simple tale. This is an odyssey born from pain, brimming with purpose, climaxing in a miracle that will leave your heart pounding and your faith restored. Get comfortable. This is a story you do not want to miss. In Chief Peter's immaculate gym, lined with shining Italian equipment, hope flickered weakly in his heart. Princess, 17, sat by his side, the picture of health, except for her unmoving legs. Chief Peter's resolve wavered as he looked at the treadmill, its digital numbers mocking him. "You don't have to push me, Daddy," Princess whispered, voice steady but eyes glassy. "I'm not pushing," he answered hurriedly, defensively, but they both understood the truth. He was pushing against fate, against loss, against the crushing weight of every failed promise. When had their lives shrunk to sterile routines? To rooms filled with costly machines but void of hope? To breakfasts with imported fruit but no appetite for life? Meanwhile, just outside the city, where hope was little more than a rumor, Amaka's world looked vastly different. She bent over a mortar beneath the blaring sun, pounding bitter leaves, her fingers stained and raw. Age 16, but her soul crafted by hardship. Every task, pounding, sweeping, washing, repeated in endless rhythm, was a strategy. The quieter she became, the fewer punishments she'd endure from her stepmother, Mama Nechi. Amaka's mother had died when she was 5, leaving behind a child with unusual talents and a world that rejected difference. Sicknesses would disappear at Amaka's touch. Fevers would break from her whispered prayers. But gifts that heal can also provoke the deepest fears. Instead of praise, villagers called her Witch Girl. Whispered she saw things while she slept. The price of her gift was loneliness and danger. One night, hunger gnawing deep inside her and sleep denied by a restless vision, Amaka saw something unusual. A man cloaked in sadness, standing beside a pale girl frozen in a wheelchair. In this vision, Amaka heard herself declare, "I can make her walk." The man, overcome, dropped to his knees crying, as the girl rose and stood. Awaking, with her heart racing, Amaka understood this was no ordinary dream. It was a summons. Cautiously, she confided in Mama Nechi. "I saw a girl who needed my help, a rich man's daughter. I think I'm supposed to heal her." But kindness was not on offer. Her stepmother's slap stung more than her words. "So now you want to attract rich men with your tricks? I'll put you in the ground if you continue this talk." Hurt but undeterred, Amaka sensed her journey had only just begun. Somewhere, destiny was calling. As dawn painted the sky with hopeful light, Amaka rose early, despite her exhaustion. Every muscle ached, and her palms throbbed, but her spirit was quietly ablaze, driven by that vision she could not ignore. She worked quickly, not wanting to earn another harsh shout from Mama Nechi. Yet her mind kept returning to the faces from her dream. Who were they? Where would she even find them? Amaka knew her reputation had tainted her in the village, isolating her from would-be friends. Though rumors followed her, she harbored a quiet strength, a will to endure what others could not. The world beyond her doorstep was as daunting as it was mysterious. But that inner call, raw and irresistible, pushed her to face the unknown. She'd learned early that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the conviction to act in spite of it. Meanwhile, miles away, in the lush luxury of Chief Peter's mansion, the air was thick with tension and defeat. Princess watched raindrops meander down her window, tracing patterns she'd memorized for years. Her eyes, pools of longing, reflected dreams she'd buried deep, running in green fields, dancing with friends, embracing freedom. The silence in her room was almost unbearable, broken only by the distant echo of her father's muffled phone calls and the measured footfalls of servants shuffling past. Nurse Gloria, always present but rarely noticed, hovered nearby with medicine and muted kindness. Though Chief Peter's wealth could fill rooms with beauty and staff with training, it could never fill the void that had settled in Princess's soul. She yearned not for luxury, but for normalcy, for movement, for a single moment she could call her own. Hope, though nearly extinguished, still flickered faintly in her heart. That afternoon, while Princess dozed fitfully, plagued by restless dreams, Chief Peter wandered the opulent hallways of his mansion. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from a ceaseless anxiety he could neither name nor outrun. Every room was a reminder of failure, walls lined with certificates of appreciation, signed photos of grateful hospitals, awards given for generosity, which in the end could not buy happiness for the one he loved most. He paused outside Princess's door, watching her sleep for a long moment. The ache in his chest deepened. How many times had he wished he could trade his fortune for her health? Guilt gnawed at him, as if each luxury accumulated was another stone added to his burden. It was in this state of vulnerability that he found himself praying for a miracle. Anything, any sign that hope was still alive, that life could still surprise him. Back in the village, Amaka spent the day tending to her chores, but her heart thumped with anticipation. Every shadow seemed to beckon her. Every breeze whispered hidden meaning. She ate little at supper, ignoring Mama Nechi's suspicious glances. As the moon rose, Amaka slipped outside, leaving behind the weight of her stepmother's disapproval. She walked along the dusty road, barefoot, guided only by the memory of her vision. Her mind replayed the scene, a man kneeling, a girl standing, their faces painted with both shock and joy. Amaka moved forward, driven less by certainty than by a faith she couldn't explain. Step by step, she felt the world around her shift. The night was alive with secrets, each one urging her onward, convincing her that she was meant for something so much greater than the tiny life she'd known. As fate would have it, a car's headlights pierced the darkness, illuminating Amaka's path. Instinctively, she stepped to the roadside, but the car slowed. An expensive sedan she'd only ever seen from afar. The window descended, revealing a man in a suit, eyes weary, voice gentle. "Are you lost, child?" Chief Peter's words startled her, but immediately she recognized the face from her vision. This was the man. Heart racing, Amaka summoned courage she didn't know she had. "I dreamed about you," she said simply, honestly. Chief Peter stared, dumbfounded, more moved by the earnest conviction in her tone than by the strangeness of her claim. "You dreamed about me? And my daughter?" Amaka nodded, trembling. "God sent me to help her," she whispered, voice steady despite fear. In that instant, something inside Chief Peter thawed. A tiny glimmer of faith flickered, piercing his exhaustion. Maybe, just maybe, he thought, this was the sign for which he'd been desperately waiting. Chief Peter hesitated for a moment, torn between disbelief and hope. The village was teeming with hustlers and those who preyed on the desperation of others. But there was something striking in Amaka's calm expression. A gravity scientists might call unexplainable, but which he felt deep in his heart. He opened the car door, gesturing for her to enter. Without a word, Amaka slipped inside. The two drove in near silence, Amaka nervously tracing invisible patterns on her dress, and Chief Peter stealing glances at her, searching for signs of deception, but finding none. With every passing kilometer, the world outside grew more distant, until it seemed they were traveling in a space made only of possibility and prayer. The mansion loomed into view at last, columns aglow under the golden lamps, iron gates swinging wide as if in anticipation of something extraordinary. The scent of jasmine and fresh-cut grass hit Amaka as the chauffeur led her through sculpted gardens to the vast front doors. Despite her nerves, Amaka's core grew steadier with each step. Chief Peter introduced her to Princess, who blinked in surprise at the sight of this unusual visitor. There was a stillness, a moment charged with meanings unspoken. Princess gazed at Amaka, searching her face for some clue, some reassurance that she was safe. Amaka knelt beside the wheelchair, their eyes meeting, a spark of recognition from her dream. "You don't know me," Amaka said gently, "but I came because I believe you're meant to walk." An awkward silence filled the room. Princess, long used to platitudes and empty hope, managed the faintest smile, as if daring to believe that this time things might be different. Chief Peter, though cautious, decided to trust his instincts. This encounter was unlike anything he'd witnessed. That night, Amaka was given a small room near the kitchen. Sleep was slow to claim her as she replayed every moment in the mansion. The rich tapestry of colors, the sparkling chandelier, the overwhelming kindness of the staff. Yet, anxiety lurked at the edge of her thoughts. What if she failed? What if the villagers were right about her? A storm crashed outside, its thunder echoing the battle raging inside her spirit. But in that darkness, Amaka whispered prayers, quiet words of gratitude, pleas for courage. She thought of her mother, whose memory was now her shield, her guidance. She thought of Princess, isolated by circumstances beyond her control. As the first hint of dawn broke the horizon, Amaka found strength to face the trial ahead. She had followed the vision, and now, with faith as her ally, she was determined not to let fear dictate her story. Morning light seeped through velvet curtains as the household transitioned from slumber to routine. Princess was wheeled into the great hall, her face wary but quietly eager. Chief Peter watched from a safe distance, balancing hope with the skepticism that years of disappointment had fostered in him. Nurse Gloria lingered nearby, uncertain but unwilling to intervene unless needed. Amaka greeted Princess with a shy yet genuine smile, kneeling beside her once more. "May I hold your hands?" she asked. Princess nodded, unsure but intrigued. Their hands met, Amaka's small, calloused palms enveloping Princess's delicate fingers. For a moment, neither spoke. Time seemed to slow, the air charged with possibility. A warm energy subtle but unmistakable, rippled between them. Amaka closed her eyes, silently gathering every ounce of love and faith she could summon. From somewhere deep within, Amaka began to hum a song, old and haunting, a melody from her childhood. The music drifted through the hall, weaving notes of memory and longing. Princess felt an unfamiliar calm. The pain that so often haunted her legs seemed distant for the first time in years. "Try," Amaka whispered softly. Princess hesitated, then pressed her toes gently to the carpet. Chief Peter held his breath, his whole world teetering on the edge of this single moment. They waited. A shiver of sensation traveled up Princess's legs. So subtle, she almost dismissed it as wishful thinking. But then, her foot moved. Not much. A twitch, a trembling. Yet it was more movement than she'd ever known. Gasps filled the room. Tears glistened in Chief Peter's eyes. Hope, once nearly dead, surged back, stronger than ever, as Princess whispered, "I felt it. I truly did." The atmosphere in the mansion shifted. Staff members, drawn by the gasps, exchanged astonished glances as news of Princess's movement spread. Nurse Gloria rushed forward, unsure whether disbelief or professional duty should guide her. Chief Peter knelt beside his daughter, overcome by emotion, his hand trembling as he touched her shoulder. Princess, still unsure if what she felt was real, looked from Amaka to her father, her eyes pleading for confirmation. Amaka nodded with quiet certainty. "It's just the beginning," she whispered, her voice barely above the hum of excitement flooding the hall. Word traveled through the household like wildfire, and even the distant kitchen staff paused mid-task, murmuring prayers of hope and gratitude. For the first time in years, it felt as if a miracle had slipped through the family's sorrow, bringing fresh possibility with the morning sun. Princess spent the rest of the day in a whirlwind of emotions. She kept testing her legs, waiting and hoping for another feeling, another movement. Amaka sat nearby, guiding her gently, encouraging patience and persistence. "It may be slow," she explained, "but each step starts with belief." Chief Peter called in their loyal physician, Dr. Eze, who had treated Princess for over 10 years. Skeptical, yet compelled by the change in his patient's demeanor. Dr. Eze examined Princess thoroughly. "Any sensation is good," he murmured, cautiously optimistic as he noted the subtle improvement in reflexes. Amaka's presence was met with curiosity. She was neither a doctor nor a nurse, yet she brought something intangible, a healing energy not found in textbooks or medicine cabinets. Princess believed that hope personified in this gentle village girl was the greatest medicine of all. The following days became a test of endurance and belief. Amaka kept up her rituals, songs from her childhood, whispered prayers, gentle touches. Princess, increasingly brave, practiced small movements each morning and night, her father counting each milestone as a new victory. The household began to change. Where there had been routine and resignation, now there was anticipation. Chef Emmanuel prepared special meals, celebrating small achievements. Gardeners trimmed roses with a renewed sense of optimism. Nurse Gloria developed a grudging respect for Amaka, often studying her methods in hopes of understanding their secret. Dr. Eze scheduled daily checkups. But no medical explanation could account for the transformation. The magic, it seemed, was not rooted in science, but in faith, in the union of two young souls determined to defy the limits set by their circumstances and by others. One afternoon, word reached the village about Princess's improvement. Rumors passed from neighbor to neighbor. Those who had once called Amaka witch girl now whispered her name with awe and curiosity. Mama Nechi received the news with mixed emotion. Her envy simmered beneath forced pride. Villagers speculated about what had happened, some suggesting that Amaka had made a secret pact, others confessing begrudging admiration. The chief's mansion became a symbol, a place where miracles were possible, where the boundaries between the known and unknown blurred just enough to allow hope to slip through. Amaka's name, once spat with scorn, was now spoken with tentative reverence. Children gathered near the mansion's gate, peering through the bars, hoping to glimpse the girl who could work wonders. The transformation was not just physical, but social. A single act of courage overturning years of suspicion and exclusion. As Princess grew stronger, so too did her connection with Amaka. The two girls spent hours sharing secrets, dreams, and fears. Princess confessed her deepest longing, to dance beneath open sky, to play games with neighborhood friends, to run until breathless with joy. Amaka shared her story, the hardships of living under suspicion, her mother's gentle wisdom, and the loneliness that came with being different. Their friendship became an anchor, restoring hope and confidence to both. Chief Peter, keenly observant, noted how laughter had finally returned to his daughter's life, often echoing through the hallways late into the night. For the first time, Princess learned that healing could mean more than the restoration of her legs. It could also mean the mending of her spirit, the opening of her heart to a world that had for so long felt closed. The days unfolded in golden threads of hope. Each morning, Amaka and Princess greeted the sun together, the wheelchair becoming less a prison and more a temporary companion. With each gentle encouragement, every laughter-soaked attempt, Princess felt sensation spread farther down her legs. Sometimes it was just a tingling, other days a sharp ache, but every sign brought more celebration than her birthdays ever had. Chief Peter watched with moist eyes, often stepping away to thank God in private, his faith reborn and burning with gratitude. The staff, once merely employees, now felt like family, each one staking a private hope on the miracle happening before their eyes. The mansion transformed, not through wealth or luxury, but through daily visible resurrection. Even the very walls seemed to breathe with anticipation and light. But for every miracle, doubt lurked in shadow. The local press caught wind of Princess's progress, intrigued by the mysterious village girl at its heart. Whispers became articles, headlines grew outlandish. Village witch or angel? Billionaire's daughter walks again, mystical or medical. Reporters swarmed the gate, some desperate to debunk, others seeking a scrap of the supernatural. Amaka, unaccustomed to eyes that sought to expose rather than understand, braved the attention with quiet dignity. Chief Peter shielded her fiercely, but he too feared the intrusion that could shatter their fragile peace. The outside world demanded proof, scoffed at what it did not understand, and as hope blossomed inside the mansion, skepticism flourished outside its gates. Princess felt the pressure too. She noticed how strangers stared, some with awe, others with skepticism, whenever she was wheeled to the veranda for fresh air. Her recovery became less private, her progress something to measure, photograph, and judge. Frustration mingled with fear. Would her legs fail her with the world's attention fixated upon them? Sometimes, in the quiet of her room, she wept. Tears Amaka quietly wiped away with gentle hands and soothing songs. "Let the world talk," Amaka would whisper. "Their eyes cannot see what's inside you." Slowly, Princess grew braver, learning that her true healing wasn't just about walking. It was about reclaiming her strength, her voice, her life. One afternoon, as clouds gathered and rain began to patter the roof, a familiar sound echoed beyond the mansion walls, a voice shrill and indignant. Mama Nechi had come, trailing rumors and resentment, determined to see for herself what had happened to the girl she'd cast aside. The encounter was tense. Chief Peter confronted her at the entrance, wary but polite. Mama Nechi's eyes darted about, scanning for signs of trickery. When she finally saw Amaka, radiant, standing beside Princess, her shock was palpable. "So it's true," she demanded, wavering between pride and disbelief. Amaka stood tall, her voice steady. "I came to help, like I always wanted to." For the first time, Mama Nechi saw the girl not as a burden, but as someone touched by grace, her own heart softening, if only a little, in the presence of undeniable change. Days blurred into weeks. On a sun-washed morning, surrounded by family and staff, Princess prepared for her boldest step yet. Amaka steadied her on one side, Chief Peter on the other. A hush falling over the assembled crowd. Princess's first step was shaky, a trembling journey across a world she'd only watched from a wheelchair. The room erupted in shouts, applause, tears. Princess laughed, a wild, free sound ringing off the marble floors. In Amaka's eyes flashed triumph and gratitude. In Chief Peter's, purest, undiluted joy. The miracle had come, not in thunder or spectacle, but through faith, persistence, and the healing touch of a girl who had once been cast aside. And as Princess walked, step by trembling step, every broken piece, every sleepless night, every prayer felt redeemed. News of Princess's first steps rippled far beyond the mansion walls. In the village, people gathered in small groups to marvel, whisper, and argue. Old women shook their heads in wonder, while children ran to reenact the story, stumbling and laughing along dusty roads. Even the most skeptical elders were forced to reconsider. Perhaps faith, forgiveness, and love could achieve what medicine alone could not. For Amaka, the change was profound. Where once she'd trudged through the village under the shadow of suspicion, she now walked upright, welcomed by smiles, even cautious embraces. Her story, entwined with Princess's healing, became a living testament. Miracles, she realized, were sometimes just the visible fruit of courage and grace. With healing came decisions about the future. Chief Peter called Amaka and Princess into his study, sunlight pouring across the rug as if blessing the gathering. "You have given our family a gift beyond riches," he said, emotion thick in his voice. "How can we ever repay you?" Amaka smiled shyly, glancing at Princess, who squeezed her hand in silent solidarity. "Let me go to school," Amaka whispered, daring to voice the longing she'd carried for years. Chief Peter nodded. "You will never lack for anything," he promised. Arrangements were made, school uniforms fitted, books purchased, her name inscribed on school rolls, alongside Princess's. A new chapter began, not just for the girls, but for the household and the village itself. It was a future shaped by hope, not fear. As the days unfurled, like the pages of a well-loved story, Amaka and Princess ventured beyond the gates together. With their arms linked, they explored bustling street markets, shaded parks, and vibrant classrooms. Princess, once isolated by her illness, grew outgoing and confident, eager to reclaim all that she had missed. Amaka, too, found herself blooming, her keen mind thriving amid challenging lessons, her heart opening to new friendships. The bond between the two girls tightened. Laughter became their language. Setbacks no longer met with despair, but with determination and teamwork. What began as an act of unexpected kindness grew into a deep, abiding sisterhood, an alliance founded on trust, healing, and the faith that miracles are possible, especially when shared. Mama Nechi, watching Amaka's transformation from a distance, wrestled with guilt and regret. She began quietly repairing her own heart, helping neighbors, mending fences she'd let fall into disrepair, seeking forgiveness from the child she'd once neglected. It was a slow, stumbling journey, but hope had taken root in unexpected places. One evening, she visited the mansion on her own, armed with a peace offering of spicy stew and heartfelt words. Amaka welcomed her with a gentle hug, and in that embrace, generations of hurt and misunderstanding began to fall. Healing, they both realized, was as much about forgiveness as it was about moving forward. Love, even when late, could still transform. The story of Amaka and Princess spread over time, shared in schools, churches, and village gatherings. It inspired songs, prayers, and newfound dreams. Children who had once mocked Amaka now asked her for help with their homework, or shyly reached for her blessing. Elderly women sent her gifts of kola nuts and woven cloth, tokens of respect for the girl who had changed not only a single life, but an entire community. As seasons shifted, the orchard near the mansion's gate flourished more lushly than ever. Sometimes, as dusk painted the sky, Amaka and Princess would sit there, side by side, legs stretched in the grass, whispering ambitions and plans beneath the stars. The world, once so narrow, now felt wide and generous, filled with stories and dreams yet to be born out of courage and love. School was a new adventure for Amaka and Princess. Each day they walked together up the school's broad steps, waving to classmates and teachers. Amaka's academic prowess quickly became apparent. She excelled in every subject, her curiosity and discipline shining. Princess, persistent and joyful, proved a quick learner too, her resilience inspiring others. Together, they founded a club for girls, encouraging those who felt unseen or unheard to find their voices. Lessons bloom. The classroom, once a battleground of suspicion, became a haven for ideas and growth. The bonds forged in adversity stood strong, and Amaka no longer feared being different. Instead, her story became a source of pride. Chief Peter watched the girl's progress with satisfaction, his heart swelling with gratitude each time he saw Princess run instead of wheeling herself. He became a more active presence in their lives, often visiting the school and organizing scholarships for children from poorer families. Unable to forget the lesson Amaka's kindness had taught him. The mansion, once filled mostly with solemnity and worry, now played host to laughter, storytelling, and lively gatherings where hope hovered in every corner. In small and ordinary ways, generosity and openness began to shape the legacy of his family. Outside the mansion, the village underwent its own transformation. Once divided by suspicion and rumor, people now gathered to celebrate festivals, help their neighbors, and share in Amaka's and Princess's triumphs. A new playground was built beside the school, the result of a community effort to honor the girls who'd broken barriers. Amaka's dream for every child to be loved and supported began to seep into the culture, her small acts of kindness rippling out to change daily life. Mama Nechi, humbled by her journey back toward love, became one of the playground's staunchest supporters, always urging children to play, forgive, and reach for the extraordinary. As time passed, Amaka's fame spread beyond the region. She was invited to speak at youth gatherings and workshops about overcoming adversity. Her message stayed simple but powerful. Let faith guide you. Let love heal you. Let courage open the world. Princess often accompanied her, sharing her own story of healing and hope. Together, they became symbols, not of magic or mystery, but of what it means to refuse despair, to keep reaching for light even when the world is shadowed. Their lives, once defined by hardship and isolation, now stood as living proof of transformation, drawing admirers and kindred spirits from all walks of life. On a quiet evening, as fireflies twinkled in the orchard and stars gathered above, Amaka and Princess sat together, reflecting on all they'd overcome. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Princess asked, voice soft. Amaka smiled, squeezing her friend's hand. "Every day. But I know, whatever comes, we'll face it together." The promise echoed in the night. Two girls, once wounded by doubt, now steady in friendship, bathed in faith and belonging. The world, their world, was forever changed. Where suspicion had reigned, now hope blossomed. Where fear had divided, now love united. And so their story continued, a living thread in the tapestry of the village and beyond, reminding all who heard it that miracles begin not with magic, but with the simple, stubborn pursuit of kindness.